Hi again guys, I've had a request from a viewer to do this tutorial on how to deal with shape-shifted cuboids. Now I thought I'd do it because I can understand it's not exactly an intuitive, obvious way to go about things. You hear in videos, tutorial videos a lot, and I've done it myself, where you just say solve this bit like a 2x2 or 3x3 to return it to its cuboid shape, and it's not necessarily intuitive exactly how you go about this. So all these cuboids here will have this problem. Basically what happens is when they're shape-shifted, they're bandaged. So these cubes at the back here, when I say cuboids, these obviously aren't shape-shifting cuboids, they stay cubic shape at all times, but when they're scrambled they bandage in exactly the same way, so you treat these in exactly the same way. So I'll start off here with the 2x2x4. These aren't going to be full tutorials. I've got other videos that do tutorials for each of these cuboids. So all I'm going to do is just explain a bit more about how to get them back to the cuboid shape. That's all. So we'll start off with the 2x2x4 here. I'll do a quick scramble. I'm not going to do it really thoroughly or anything, because all we're worried about is the shape at this point. So if I just scramble it from its cuboid shape, and then I'll explain exactly how you go about it. The approach I use for this is exactly how you go about approaching any cuboid. It will work on this all the way up to something stupid like the 6x8x10, which I really hope I can afford to buy at some point. So anyway, let me just move these out of the way for now. So the 2x2x4 is scrambled up now. And what you find when it's scrambled is, whereas before you had 4 layers that you could turn, you now haven't got that, because once it's shape-shifted it gets bandaged. And what I mean by that is, you can no longer turn, if you see where you've got these 3 cuboids on the top layer but there's one missing sort of, you can't actually turn those 3 cuboids by themselves. You can only turn the layer below it. And this works in every direction. Whenever you've got things shape-shifted, you get this bandaging. It's basically to do with the way the cuboids are attached to the core. It needs a place to spin, and this square is blocking it basically. So what you're left with is essentially a 2x2 solve. Now let me try and explain exactly why that's the case. So if you look at this puzzle as I've got it now, I've got one layer here on the left that will turn. These two can't turn separately, so I've got one layer there and one layer there. So I've got 2 layers that turn in that direction, just like you would have on a 2x2. If I were to go to this direction, if I go to this direction, you'll find that I've got a left-hand layer and a right-hand layer that turns again. So I've just got 2 across there. And if I was to go the up layer and the down layer, I've also got 2. So in every direction around the puzzle now that it's in its shape-shifted state, I can only turn 2 layers. Now you may find occasionally that you accidentally get a situation like this, and once you've got like a complete layer on the top, you will find that that's actually turnable. But if it's fully shape-shifted, so you haven't got any blocks like that, you're always going to be in a situation where you've got 2 layers in every direction, so it turns essentially like a 2x2. So what you need to do to return it to its cuboid shape is solve it exactly like a 2x2. Now there are 2 ways of doing this. You can use the cuboids in the middle, so those 4 there and those 4 there are the ones you solve, sort of thing. 2x2 in the middle of the puzzle. So you ignore the top layer and the bottom layer of the 2x2x4, and you're just solving the middle bit, which if you were to chop those layers off, it would be a 2x2x2. So hopefully you can see that. But you can use the outside layers as well. On the 2x2x4, I find it just as easy to use the inner layers, to be honest. So what I will do, I'll show you how I go about that. So let's say, just like you would on a 2x2, I'm just going to use like a beginner's method type thing. So we'll start on the top face, so it's going to be the yellow face here. So basically I want to get all my yellows here, and obviously the colours need to be solved around the sides as well. So obviously with the yellow and orange there, I need the other yellow and orange piece next to it. So I just insert that the same way as I would on a 2x2. So I'm putting this yellow and orange cubie here. Now hopefully you should be able to do that on a 2x2, hopefully, which in that case means you've done it here as well. You can see straight away, if you look, once they're in position and correctly oriented, the pieces that are attached to them go into the correct places as well as they need to be on the 2x2x4. So you've got a piece sticking out the end here, which will make an extra layer on this end, and once this layer is complete here, you'll have another layer on this end, which is exactly what you need. And hopefully that shows you that once you've got all of those pieces on the inner 2x2x2 in place, then all of the end blocks will also be, they won't be the right pieces in the right place, but they'll be they'll return back to a cuboid shape to be able to solve the final stages of a cuboid solve. So we need the other two yellow inner cuboids. So I've got one here. So obviously I've got yellow there. So I need one sort of here and one there to solve those. So we've got a yellow and red here. So let's put that one in position. So that one belongs there. And then once again, you can see that it's brought another cuboid along with it onto the end here to complete this layer. So we just need the final yellow and red piece there, which is around here. So again, just insert it like you would on a regular 2x2. Remember, we're only worried about the yellow and red piece. We're not paying any attention to what's outside it at all, just this inner portion here. That's the only part we're paying attention to right now. You can see that now that I've got all those yellow pieces in position, it's brought an entire face into the correct shape on this side. Now, as I said, you're going to have the wrong actual cubes in position. You're not going to have the right ones there, but it's brought the right shape to this face of the puzzle. So now we move on to solving the other layer of the 2x2, which is the up layer now. I'm going to use this in my down layer. This is the way you would solve. I would solve a 2x2 anyway. First I've got to figure out what colour it will be. Now I can see I've got 4 green pieces, so because this hasn't got a standard colour scheme, but I can see I've got 4 cuboids with green stickers on them on the inner part. So remember, we're ignoring the outside edges, just these inner pieces are what we're interested in. So I know it's going to be a green on top. So what I need to do is orient all those pieces correctly with soons, like you would on a regular 2x2. So I'm putting, let me do it thoroughly. So I'm putting a green sticker on the front left and doing a soon. So R, U, R prime, U, R, U2, R prime. So I've still got all my yellows solved. And I've got a couple of greens on top. So I still need to do that again. So put a green sticker on the front left and do a soon. R, U, R prime, U, R, U2, R prime, and finally an anti-soon to finish it off. So R, U2, R prime, U prime, R, U prime, R prime. Gives me all my green stickers on the top. Now you can see that in this situation I've actually I've got one red correct and one orange correct, so those two are in the right position. You can basically tell by the shape of the puzzle. If you've got a shape, an edge that will go into the correct position like this, to make the right shape on this side, so you've got a fully solved end layer now, you know that these are in the right position. But these two, because they're sticking out in the wrong direction, you know those aren't in the right position. So basically these two corners of the 2x2, so the green red and the green orange, need to swap. And once they're swapped, they will actually be in the correct orientation once they're in the right position now, because with the green on top they have to be, once they're in the right position, oriented correctly as well. So basically you just do a swap these two corners of a 2x2 with whatever method you do. Basically the way I do it is the way I would on a cuboid. So it'd be R2 U, R2 U prime, R2 F2, oops, one turn, I want you turn U prime, F2, U, F2. Move everything back. You can see that I've now got the centre portion is all solved. So if you ignore the end pieces, that's the 2x2 that I've been talking about this whole time, that you can see between my fingers, and that is all solved. All I've got to solve is the top and bottom layers, which I can do with regular cuboid corner swapping algorithms. So with the higher order cubes, we basically follow the same process. So let me just scramble up this 3x3x5 slightly. This is the cube for you, shapeshifting 3x3x5. Exactly the same applies to this cubic 3x3x5, because basically it is essentially the same puzzle. It's just got bigger cuboids on the ends. If you look at both of them next to each other, it's just basically got a piece of plastic essentially on top of what you see here to make it shapeshift. So it works exactly the same way, and there is no difference to the solving process between those two puzzles whatsoever. So let's get it shapeshifted, and I'll show you what we do. Hopefully you've got a feel for exactly how you go about this from what I've just shown you with the 2x2x4. Okay, so that's shapeshifted, and what you do is go again to see what puzzle you're left behind with. Now that it's shapeshifted, now that the bandaging has taken place, you're going to have pieces like, for example, you can't turn this end layer on its own now, it's bandaged to this layer, so it turns kind of two layers together now, just like it did with the 2x2x4. Excuse me. So what you do is you turn the layers to see exactly how many layers you've got that turn. So I've got an upper layer that turns there, an equatorial layer and a lower layer, so I've got 3 that way. I've got a left layer that turns, I've got an M layer that turns, and I've got an R layer that turns, so I've got 3 that way. And if I turn the puzzle this way, you'll find that I've got a left, an M and an R as well. So I've got 3 layers now in every direction. So basically what I need to do is solve this exactly the same way I would a 3x3. Now this one you'll do slightly different to the way I did the 2x2x4. If you remember, I said you could use the outer cuboids instead of the inner cuboids, which would work perfectly well on the 2x2x4 as well. You could use the outer cuboids as the cuboids you solved as a 2x2, so you could completely ignore the inner 2 layers and solve it just using the white face and the blue face cuboids. So that's what I'm going to do on this 3x3x5. So first of all, now you don't necessarily have to follow this entire process. You can just mix. I'll tell you what, I'll show you it twice. I'll show you the way solving it completely like a 3x3, and then I'll scramble it again and show you what I mean with the other way. So first of all, of course, we need our white cross. So I've got white green in place, white blue is in place, the white orange needs to go around the other side. You do this exactly the same as you would on a 3x3, so hopefully I don't need to explain that to you in any detail. Of course, it turns exactly the same way as a 3x3 would. So there's my white cross in position. I'll then put my white corners in. I won't do any F2L or anything on this particular solve, because I'm just going to make it as straightforward as I can. So I've got my white, blue and orange in position, white, green and red over here. And again, just simple beginner's method moves to put the corners in position like you would on a 3x3. If this is beyond your abilities, then you probably shouldn't really be tackling this puzzle as yet. So that's my white layer complete. I then need to do my centre layer. I'm completely ignoring these the layer between the centre layer and the white face that is now complete. I'm completely ignoring that for now. They will be solved with cuboid algorithms later on. And again, if you want to know more details about how to do that, then go and look at my 3x3x5 tutorials, which will give a lot more detail. I don't want to really repeat everything again here. So I'm just going to insert my middle layer edges now, my equatorial layer edges. So I've got green and red here. Blue and orange. You can use whatever method you use for inserting these edges. Whether it's F2L or beginner's method or some other way you do it, whether it's the good old ultimate solution, however you do it. But you should be able to solve a 3x3 and know exactly how to insert these middle layer edges, definitely before you come to try and solve a puddle like this anyway. So now I've got the centre layer complete as well. I've now left with the top layer, so we do it exactly the same as you would on a 3x3. First we orient the yellow cross, so to our R, U, R prime, U prime, F, and then I actually know the OLL algorithm for fixing these, because it's just exactly the same as it would be on a 3x3. If you had a yellow on this corner and a yellow on this corner facing to front and back, just because they're sticking out makes no difference whatsoever. It works exactly the same way as it would on a 3x3. So the same algorithm that I would use on a 3x3 works, and as you can see, that has returned everything to cuboid shape, and we can now use cuboid algorithms to solve the puddle, because everything is free, every layer turns, so we don't need to worry about using 3x3 methods any longer. We can use cuboid algorithms on it now to do the whole solve. Now let me show you now what, because I wouldn't actually do it that way that I've just shown you when I'm solving it. I wanted to show you, just to kind of show you how exactly it's the same as it is on a 3x3. But let me show you what I actually do when I'm solving these now, because it's a quicker process. So what I actually do to solve this is, when I start on my white face, I'm inserting a cross, but it's not necessarily have to be a white cross. Now you can see I've got a yellow piece here, but I don't worry about it. As long as I've got a white or a yellow piece in all the positions, that's all I'm looking for. So, as I said, it doesn't have to be the right piece. As long as you get a white or a yellow in each of the cross and then the corners, that is good. So this is exactly why. Now that I've completed it, I've got all white and yellow in these positions. You can see that top face now spins freely independently of that second layer down. I then insert my middle layer edges exactly as I did last time. Blue and orange, orange and green, and red and blue. So the centre layer you solve correctly, you put everything in the right position where it belongs, and then you're left with the yellow face. But once again, it's not all going to be yellow pieces, of course. You just but it works with either white or yellow. So I orient my yellow cross, or at least the cross pieces on that face. Then I orient the corners. Just using regular Soon algorithms like I would on a regular 3x3. And once you've got all those oriented correctly, you can see that now all the layers turn freely. Now the reason I do it like that is because when you're solving it as a cuboid, the way I solve it is that I then solve the inner layers, these thin layers on this one. Obviously they're not thin if you've got the proportional 3x3x5 like Calvin's. And in the process of doing those, now what you can do is when you're making, say, a U-turn, you can turn it and then turn this layer back, but it tends to be quite fiddly, especially when you get things like this 3x3x9. If I'm solving, say, the third layer down here, I'm going to have to keep turning these layers back all the time to stop them getting scrambled. But if you don't have to do that, then you don't have to worry about whether these layers are getting scrambled in the process. And then, once these inner pieces are done, you then solve the top and bottom layers separately like you would a domino. And that's the reason why I don't worry about solving them correctly first. All I need is to make it so that I can turn every layer, and then I can solve them the way I would on any other cuboid. So finally, the 3x4x5. Now this one's a little bit different, although the way you figure it out is just the same, exactly the same as you would. I'm not going to scramble it too much once again, but I really just want to demonstrate the shape shifting properties. If you want the full on tutorial for these puzzles, then please look elsewhere on my channel. I do have tutorials for all these puzzles on there that I've demonstrated here. I just wanted to go into more detail about how to sort out the shape-shifted state, because, well, a viewer asked me to, basically. And by the way, if you haven't got one of these 3x4x5s, I really recommend you go and get one. Some people complain about the turning quality, but I've had no problems with mine whatsoever. I just have to tighten up the tensions a little bit and it turns great. This thing has been solved. If you look at the stickers are quite worn in places, and that's because this thing has been solved dozens and dozens of times. I love this puzzle. I think it's probably been solved more than any other puzzle in my collection, actually. Okay, so the process we take is exactly the same on the other ones to figure out what puzzle we are trying to solve to begin with, to return it to its cuboid state. So let's see how many layers we've got. If we start on the top layer here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers that turn in that direction from top to bottom, and then we've got an L face that turns, an M layer that turns, and an R layer that turns. So we've got 3 in this direction, 4 in this direction. So let's have a look on this side. We've got an L, an M. Oop. And I've just managed to pop a piece out. That's not good. Well, let's see if we can get you back in. It's only 1, fingers crossed. I want to rebuild the thing. Yeah. I just caught it wrong with my finger at the back there, pressed down on it while it was sticking out. But luckily we've got it back in without anything else falling apart. Anyway, so we've got 1, 2, 3 layers that way. So we've got 4 from top to bottom, 3 layers that way and 3 layers that way. So we've got a 3 by 3 by 4. So presumably you can solve a 3 by 3 by 4, because you need to be able to before you come to this puzzle. So what we're going to do to return it to its cuboid shape is to solve it like a 3 by 3 by 4. One thing you'll notice is you can do 90-degree turns in these directions like you can on a regular 3 by 3 by 4, but you can only do 180-degree turns in this direction. If you try and do a 90-degree turn, the cubes don't line up and you can't make turns. So that's the thing with the 3 by 4 by 5, it only shape shifts in one direction. So it solves exactly the same way as a 3 by 3 by 4 does. So what we're going to do is start off with the middle layers the same way as I would on a 3 by 3 by 4. Now I know my colour scheme goes red, the centrepiece is red, so that's the red face, white and blue, and I've actually got lucky there, just in the process of showing you. I've got red centre, which is correct, the white centre edge, which is this one here. Remember we were just talking about this layer, it's got the white strip on, and the middle one of those is white, so that's my centre edge on that face, and the centre edge on that face is that blue down there. And if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cubes across, remember, so even though you've only got 4 on this face at the moment, it's actually 5 wide, so that blue one, which is 3 across, is the centre edge on that face. So then we want to, opposite the white, we want a yellow. I've got lucky again, I've got a yellow one there already, but if it wasn't there you'd insert it the same way as you would on a 3 by 3 by 4, and lo and behold I've got a green one there as well. I can't believe that. The way I was turning it to show you how many layers I've got in each direction is purely by accident put all those centre edges in, but that's fine. So then we go about inserting the corners. So when I say corners, it's the ones that are adjacent to the long centres, which are the white and the yellow on this. So you can see I've got a green and white in here, but it's on the face with the blue and white, sorry, with the blue centre, so it actually needs to be a blue and white corner piece here. So let's find a blue and white one. We haven't got one in the top layer right now, so let's find a different colour. I want a white and green here. And we've got a white and green in the top layer. I have. When I say the top layer, I'm actually meaning this. All we're solving at the moment are the middle 2 layers. So when I say the top layer and the bottom layer, I just mean this layer was top and this layer is bottom. So what I'm looking for is a green and white in this top layer. So I'll look around. You see I've got a green and white I'm calling it a corner piece. I mean, it's really an edge piece of the finished puzzle, but of these two layers, it's a corner piece. Yeah, I hope that's clear. Now, what you want, if you remember from a 3x3x4 or a domino, you want these colours opposite. So you don't want, if this was green and this was white, that would be the wrong piece. We want the piece that's got the white sticker of the corner is on the same face as the green centre, and the green sticker of the corner is on the same face as the white centre, which is correct. And then we do the corner insertion algorithm from cuboids, which is R2 U, R2 UI, R2. You can see that green-white piece is now there. So the green is on the same face as the green, the white is on the same face as the white centre, and as you can see, that little section is now the correct shape. So doing that all the way around will hopefully is clear to you that will make the shape correct for the whole puzzle. So let's see if we've got a blue and white in the top layer. Now we have, but it's still the wrong one because the blue sticker is on the same face as the blue centre and the white is on the same face as the white centre. So let's find something else. Let's say blue and yellow perhaps. See if we can find a blue and yellow. We've got blue and yellow, but it's the wrong one. And we haven't got the right one either, so let's try green and yellow. We've got a green and yellow there, but it's the wrong one, and here's the right one. So we've got a green and yellow corner here, which goes between the yellow and green centres. The stickers are opposite, so we've got green on yellow face, yellow on green face. So corner insertion, R2 U, R2 UI, R2. So that's got the green and yellow matched up with their centres, and you can see again that the shape of that section is now right. So what was that giving us in my top layer now? Is it giving me anything else I can use? That blue and yellow doesn't work. That blue and yellow does work. So I've got the opposite colours to the centres on this blue and yellow corner. So we can insert that. R2 U, R2 UI, R2. So that section's correct now. And finally want this green and white, blue and white here. So find the blue and white. That's the wrong one. That's the right one because it's got opposite colours. So one last time, R2 U, R2 UI, R2. So you can see that this green white is on with the green centre and white centre, and the green and yellow is in with the green centre and yellow centre, etc. all the way around that layer. And as you can see, that the shape of that layer is now correct. So we then solve the top layer of those middle two layers, and just like with a 3x3x4, you look to see if you've got headlights first, which is two corners solved on the same layer, adjacent to each other on that layer. And you can see that whilst they don't look like regular headlights on a 3x4, this blue and white and blue and yellow, you got the blue is on the same face as each other of those two corners. So the blue white on this edge and the blue yellow on this edge, you got the blue on the same face. So that actually is the same as the headlights you look for on the 3x3x4. So you turn those around so they're on the correct face. If you didn't have headlights, you'd just do this corner swap algorithm that I'm just about to do, and doing that once will give you headlights in one direction, where it might be on the yellow face, might be on the white, might be on the blue, whichever. And the final two corners on that top layer, the green yellow and the green white, they need to swap with each other because the green and white is actually next to the yellow centre at the moment, so that corner and that corner need to swap. So you put those on the right hand side and do the adjacent corner swap algorithm. R2 U, R2 UI, R2, F2 UI, F2 U, F2. Realign the top layer, and you can see that now we've got all those edges in place, sorry, corners in this top layer. I mean, they are edges in the finished puzzle, as I said earlier, but we're treating them as domino corners. That's how we're solving them. So then we do our centres in the top layer. So first of all, I do opposite edge swaps. So this blue is going to the opposite side, so it's swapping with this white. So R2 U2, R2 U2, R2 U2. So the blue centre or edge, whatever you want to call it, the one my finger's pointed to, is now in position. The yellow is correct with the MF8 logo there, so I just need to swap this white with this green. So the adjacent edge swap, R2, U, R2, U, R2, U2, R2, U2, R2, U, R2, UI, R2. Now we're ignoring these kind of inner edge centres, what you want to call them, the two that are blue on this face, which is the green face. Those are being ignored at the moment. All we're looking at is the outside corners and the centres or edges, whatever you want to call them, on each face. You can see that they are all solved. As long as you ignore those inner pieces there, the rest is solved, which is what we're looking for. And you can see that the shape of those two layers around the centre is now solved. So all I've got to do is exactly the same process on the top and bottom layers, just the same as you would now on a 3x3x4, and that will get everything back to the cuboid shape, and then we can then use cuboid and parity algorithms to solve the rest of the puzzle. So let's start off with our red cross, our red edges. So we've got the red and blue there, so let's put that in position. Let's see, we've got red and white there, so that's going to go on that side, and we've got a red and green, which is going to go opposite my red and blue. Sorry if I'm doing this a bit quick, because you really should be comfortable with this, I think, from a 3x3x4 before tackling this puzzle. So if you're not, then I suggest you go and get familiar with that first. So that's my red cross done, and again, when I say cross, what I mean is my red and blue piece, my red and green edge piece there, and the red and white edge piece and red and yellow edge piece. We're only talking about things around the outside of the puzzle. We're ignoring things like that orange piece there and that red piece there that happens to be solved, but it didn't matter whether it was or not. We're just that piece, that piece, that piece, that piece, and that piece counts as our cross. So we then insert the corners, and again we're only talking about the outside corners. We're ignoring things like that red piece there. So let's see, we've got red, yellow and blue. That goes, I didn't think that was right, it goes there. So this is my blue face. So R2, U, R2, U prime, R2. And once again, if you're not familiar with the 3x3x4, I do have a full tutorial for that on my channel elsewhere as well, so please look that up if that's a puzzle you're not sure how to solve before tackling this. So what else we've got? Red, green and white. Need to put that into my workspace. So red, green and white goes here. So R2, U, R2, UI, R2. Put my bottom layer back where it belongs. And finally the red, green and yellow, R2, U, R2, UI, R2. Keeping a workspace here, you can see my bottom layer is now cuboid shaped, exactly how it should be, and I've just got to deal with my top layer. I have yellow headlights, so I need to do a corner swap on these two. So R2, U, R2, UI, R2, UI, D, R2, UI, R2, U, R2. Realign my bottom layer. I can put all my top layer in position. You can see everything's just about the right shape now. All I've got to sort out are my edges. So R2, U2, R2, U2, R2, U2. Put my yellow in position. Then I just need an adjacent edge swap on those. So R2. So I'm doing the orange and white edge and the orange and green edge and adjacent edge swap. So R2, U, R2, U, R2, U2, R2, U2, R2, U, R2, UI, R2. And as you can see, we're back into cuboid shape now. We're ready to carry on solving the final stages of the 3x4x5 using the parity algorithms that you tend to use on this. And yeah. As I said, if you want more details on how to do the entire solve on these puzzles, then please go and look up the separate tutorials, because I have them for all of these puzzles that I've brought out here. As I said earlier, the 3x3x5 and the 3x3x7 and the 3x3x9 all work the same way, because when they're shape shifted, you get this exact same bandaging here. So it's not actually shape-shifting, of course, it stays in cubic form, but once I scrambled you get exactly the same bandaging, so you have to follow exactly the same process to make it possible to turn all the layers, and then you use cuboid algorithms to solve the puzzles from there. So hopefully that's cleared a few things up for you, especially the person that requested this video, but hopefully anybody else watching this is being helped by it as well. Hopefully everything was clear in that. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.